So I've already made a video on how to shift from the 3D to the 5D, but as you go through this shift, you're going to want to know some of the feedback you're going to get from life that indicates you're actually on that path, you're staying on it, you're moving along it, and you actually are successfully going from 3D to 5D. So that's what I'm going to do in this video, give you 5 signs that you are successfully moving from more of a 3D based living to a 5D based living. That's coming up next. So before we jump into it, my name is Dave and this is Heartspace if you are new to the channel, where I'm creating videos from my heart to help you along your heart path. And again, for me, that means helping you from wherever you are right now and bridging that gap to where you want to be, which for a lot of you watching this is being in a heart-based life, living fulfillingly, just having a really happy, joyful, peaceful, whatever it is, insert the emotion you want in there. And I help you through creating these videos, my courses, my coaching, and everything I do to really help you bridge that gap and get to that point. Now, one thing I can offer you right off the bat is my free course, which will help you experience or start inviting in miracles into your life and the magic that life has to offer into your life in as little as 3 days. So you can get that for free down below in the description. And like I said, I'm going over 5 signs that you are starting to make that transition from a more 3D based living to a 5D based living. Now, if you don't know the difference between the two, I have a video and I'll link that down below in the description that you can watch to just learn the difference. But here are 5 signs that can start showing up when you are starting to make this transition, and to use them as encouragement to keep going and keep doing what you're doing in order to get to the point where you are living kind of fully from that 5D experience. Now, number 5 is going to be one of the more obvious ones, so I'm going to do it first, and it's you're putting less emphasis on the physical. And this is the obvious one because 3D represents being tethered more to physical reality and believing that's what base reality is, where 5D is being more understanding of what you actually are, where you actually come from oneness, that we're all in this together, and that the physical reality is an illusion. It's an amazing illusion. It comes out of the inner world and all that is, but it's not base reality. Now, this is not a call to neglect the 3D world. You are in the 3D world as well for a reason. I don't really believe the universe or God or source is redundant and just does things willy-nilly. It's just like, oh, let's just see what happens if we do this. No, it's like this. There is a divine process going on, a coherence, a perfection that really is underlying everything that happens. And so you wouldn't be a spiritual being in this 3D experience if you weren't meant to be having this 3D experience, or even chose to be having this 3D experience through your spirit, through your soul. But that being said, if you were putting less emphasis on the physical and more emphasis on the inner, and understanding you are a spiritual being in a physical body, and you can still enjoy that physical existence, explore and experience and do amazing the physical world's unbelievable, unbelievably beautiful. So enjoy that. But if you understand that, oh, actually I'm a spiritual being in this avatar, in this body, but I'm not the body, I'm not the mind, I am the spirit, I am that which is connected to all that is, then that's a huge sign you're making that shift and you've really internalized that and you're actually living from that. I would say you've probably successfully shifted to a 5D level of living kind of perspective at that point. In fact, if it aligns with you and resonates with you, put in the comments, I am a spiritual being in a human body, or any variation of that. Kind of commit and align yourself to that. And now let's move on to number 4. And number 4 is you honor and you are also drawn and you also enjoy the inner work. Now, I already mentioned this, and kind of you put less emphasis on the physical, but there are sometimes, again, people who just put less emphasis on the physical and then kind of do nothing, right? And kind of sit there and wait for things to happen. Again, you are also a co-creative being. You are co-creating with source while also being an individuation of that source, while also being all that is. It's known as like a divine contradiction where both can exist at the same time from different levels of perspective. And you are actually engaging and connecting to your inner world quite a lot. Every single day, at least for an hour or probably longer if I kind of added up everything. Like, I'm connecting to my inner world instead of just putting all my emphasis on the physical. And there's many different ways to do this. There's meditations and breath work. There's simply just doing heart-based activities and doing what your heart is leading you towards. Because you could be having a physical experience that also completely is an inward experience because it's connected to the inner world. Your intuition led you to that, where you're kind of really combining and in coherence doing both at the same time, because you are both at the same time. And so you could be engaging in something, yeah, you're doing something in the physical world, but it's also something that you got instruction to do from the inner world, if that makes sense. It resonates with you. For example, like breath work is something that resonates with me highly. It's a 10 out of 10, so in my heart, I love it. I do it every single day pretty much without fail for about an hour every single day. There's physical components, a much more physical component of the body involved in doing that, but it can also really deeply attach you, or not attach you, it's the wrong word to use, but really deeply tune you in to the inner world. I think it's like such a beautiful balance of both. And so if you're drawn to doing more of those things, and especially I would say you are engaging and making the choice to do the inner work pretty much on a daily basis, that is going to go a long way to causing you to shift more into that 5D living, because you're now tuning in and giving your energy to something beyond just the physical, whether it's meshed as you're doing both at the same time, or one where you're literally quieting and calming down the body and connecting deeply into that inner realm. So if you're enjoying this so far, it resonates with you, hit that like button, as it helps to get out to more heart-centered people. And we're going to move on to number 3. Number 3 is you are less reactionary, and you are not trying to control things outside of you anymore, especially people. There are so many people that even if they're using soft language, you can tell they're trying to control people or situations outside of themselves. Or they're using things like, I'm not going to be happy because this person keeps doing that. That is a level of control. That is a level of victim story of using, hey, my happiness is determined on what you do, right? So that is using something outside of you, in this case, another person, in order to say that I'm not going to be X, Y, or Z unless they do X, Y, or Z. It's a method of control, right? And this is one that kind of people who are a little more in tune and more spiritual usually fall into. They're not usually aggressive, like you better do what I say or da-da-da-da-da, right? It's usually done in a more softer, in a way, kind of more passive-aggressive manner. And if you find that's something you no longer want to do, and a lot of us have done that. I've done that in the past. A lot of people have some kind of story like that they've been in, or they've been on the receiving end, or they've done both, or whatever else it is. And if you find you just have no interest in doing that anymore, you understand that everything that's happening is in divine timing and there's a divine plan, and it's all part of the process. You don't need to control any of it. That's not your job. You are a co-creative being, and you can control what you do, the choices you make, where you direct your energy, whether you go into the inner world or not, whether you react or not. But you cannot control the external circumstances and how the pieces fall in place. You especially cannot control people. This usually comes coupled with the feelings of calm and peace quite frequently, because you're not reacting to everything. Now, you might have excitement and other things too, but you're not having these negative reactions, or sometimes it kind of leaves really quickly. Like, I notice I will have a negative reaction sometimes, but then I will kind of turn it into a joke, or I'll laugh at it, and it's very easy for me to dissipate it and not get hooked into some kind of story about it, like, oh, this is unfair, or yada, 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 whatever else it is. So you might still have the reaction, but you're very good at allowing it to be released very, very quickly. And this allows for a much deeper level of calm, peace, gratitude, accessing those higher levels of consciousness, which is what exists more from the 5D. Again, the 3D is more tethered to the physical realm, so it makes sense if you're living from a 3D experience, you're putting a lot of stock in what's happening in your physical. Oh, this person's doing this and that's annoying me. Oh, this person, this external thing is happening and my happiness is involved in this not happening this way. Oh, I don't have enough money, or I don't have this relationship, etc., etc. If you're putting stock into all of these things, trying to fit the pictures you have in your mind, and they're not, you're obviously going to suffer. Whereas when you come from the 5D experience, you understand that everything is going to work out the way it will, that you're going to keep following the inspired action. You have no idea how the outcome is going to present itself, but that you know everything is going to be okay, and the universe in divine order will present and kind of order everything in the perfect way, usually more perfect than anything you could imagine anyway. Ultimately, the more you start shining your light, the more positive influence you will have anyway, especially when it comes to other people, but you're not invested in what they do with your light, whether they embrace the light or not, understanding that it's an invitation, not a command. It is, like you're leading them to the place, but you're not saying they have to do anything. It's like, I will take you if you are open to doing it. It's like doing these videos, right? Like, I make these videos, and for those who it resonates with, they may take some things on board, but I'm not so vested in like someone having to do that, right? Someone could come to this, and I've had comments like this before, like, this is nonsense, what are you talking about, woo-woo crap, you suck, whatever it is. And it's like, great, that's absolutely fine. You don't want to take this on board? I'm not vested in you doing that. Totally cool. That's not a part of your journey now. Maybe it never will be. not really interested in that. What I'm doing is just trying to shine my light. And for those who are inspired by it, who want to shine their own lights and find it inspiring and something they can use in their own life to help their life, then that's amazing. But not being so vested in whether that happens or not, just being the invitation. Number 2 is you're becoming way more sensitive to energy and vibration. When you start connecting to 5D, the inner world, and you put less emphasis on the physical, you stop trusting appearances, just physical appearances through the 5 senses, and you start putting way much more priority on the inner world, the vibrations and the energy. And I'm sure you've seen something that looked good on paper, so to speak, and then just you had a gut feeling that there was something off about it, and so you didn't do it, only to find out later, like, what a great decision that was. An easy one is you can look in relationships, and maybe there's someone you're so incredibly attracted to, but intuitively you know that's not going to work out, right? So they can happen in many different areas as well. I mean, it could be happening in, like, you think this person's going to screw you over, even though it looks like, oh, this is an amazing thing, or this seems like whatever it is, and you don't trust the appearance, you trust the energy. Now, sometimes it'll be someone's offering you something and they're super genuine, and it's like, oh, this is a perfect match. You know, don't also go the other end of the spectrum, like, oh, they're offering me something, like they're trying to manipulate me, they're trying to scam me or whatever, because that's actually still a head-based judgment. But if you inwardly feel that way, you know, when you're giving that more stock, when you're understanding that vibration and energy doesn't lie, it is pure, it is what is, it can't be manipulated, and you can't deceive someone with energy and vibration. It is pure. You'll start becoming more sensitive to that when you are moving more into that 5D experience and putting more stock in that and not caring what the appearances are, right? You know, for example, with me, I don't usually do things that just feel off to me. I don't get involved in, relationships, like friendships with people who, you know, maybe they present themselves a certain way, but I'm like, there's something off about this. I don't really want to do this. They're seemingly trying to, it almost seems like there's a subtle, they're trying to make me feel obligated to do something. Not interested in that. I'm going to read the vibration and energy about that situation and apply that to everything as well. So if you're noticing you're way more sensitive to energy and vibration, that's another big sign you're moving into that 5D realm again, because you're honoring that inner world, that world in which we are connected to all that is and where we come from, more than just the physical appearance of things. Number 1 is a really big one, and it's you no longer have a victim story, or if you do, it has become very small and weak and you've been doing the inner work in order to release it. One of the biggest things that tethers people to the physical 3D world is a victim story on why life is happening to them, on why things are unfair, why their external circumstances, the conditions of their life are unfair, and they are a victim. And there are so many people walking around this way, and it tethers them to the 3D world. You know, it's like, because this person at work is annoying, or, you know, I can't get this done because of this person, I don't have enough money, I don't have this, whatever it is. You know, we can go from more extreme to less extreme. And it's not to not honor certain things that are happening to you and work through them, but there are a lot of people who actually have no interest in working through those things and actually want the validation and love they get from their victim story, but it ties them to the 3D. And when you start moving more into 5D, you start letting go of those stories that are kind of keeping you attached and tethered to the physical, to the 3D, to the circumstances of, oh, this defines me, this is my victim story. When you start to move more into 5D, you start to let go of this, realizing you are infinite, you are not limited by a story, no matter who tried to convince you of it, or no matter whatever has happened to you. And again, that can be harder for some people than others. But ultimately, when you move into 5D, there isn't too much of a victim story. You realize that you are a divine, infinite, co-created being, and it's kind of hard to see a being like that as a victim, because ultimately I believe they're not, but you have to tap into that to kind of see that, right? When you're in the limitation game of the 3D world, it's very easy to kind of allow a victim story to perpetuate and in a way run your life. But when you allow this to fall away, or you actually engage in the work of healing it and everything else, that means you're moving more into that 5D experience. You know, you're doing the shadow work, the things you know you need to do to release the story, to show yourself that you are not the small story, the limitation, or whatever else it is. That's a huge sign that, again, even if you're just starting that process, but you're actually committed to doing that and you're investing in doing that, that's a huge sign that you're moving more into that 5D perspective. So one thing that's definitely going to make it easier to shift from 3D to 5D is knowing how to actually speak to source in the universe and knowing how that communication actually works. So check out this video next where I go over how you can actually communicate with the universe and source, how that works, and how you can do that on an ongoing basis, because then source will help lead you to the things you need to do to kind of awaken and shift more into this kind of reality.